Well, it's so great to have you here, Andrea Waltz, the author of, I know you want to, I can't resist. I've got to say, I have the author of Go for No right here with us on this interview, and I'm so excited to have you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
It's great. I mean, I can't wait for people to hear about your story and a little bit about the book. And I'm just going to say it up front for those of you who are only going to watch the first minute of this interview, get the book, Go for No, it will change your life. Right. So I'm excited about that. Andrea is an international speaker. She is the author of 3 books, The Fear Factory, $1 Million Year, and Go for No, exclamation point, which is kind of your first, pivoting, your catapulting book, I think. And you have a story that you're going to share with us in a little bit about how you became an overnight success in only 10 years. And if people were in Action membership, this is what we do for our members each month. We work with international speakers like yourself who have books. So everyone who's attending our membership is going to get a book of yours. The cool thing is that very few people get to tap into experts like yourself. And we've been very intentional in Action membership to make sure that we put people there in front of them. And it's pretty cool, actually, what we do. And so I'm very excited to have you part of that. And the more people who know about the success that you can have in sales, and that sales is a lot more than what people think it is. I think that the more people will help. So I'm going to go dive right in there and ask you, well, say anything you like, but tell us about your book and how it got started and that 10-year overnight success story of yours.
Yeah. Well, what I've learned is it always takes a little bit longer than you think it's going to take when you first start any kind of project, any kind of venture. That's just the way it is. But so Richard and I, my husband and I are in business together. We launched our company and we were doing speaking and training. Our background was in the retail industry, and we were doing sales and management and customer service training. And one of the things that we would talk about is Go for No. And we decided that that was the thing that people loved more than anything. So in 2000, which makes me feel like a dinosaur, this is ancient history, we wrote Go for No. And we were very excited. And we thought that because people loved the idea when we did the training, that we thought the book would just explode and go crazy. Of course, this is pre-Amazon, so we're on our own in terms of marketing it. We ordered 5,000 copies. They got shipped to our garage. We took 500 of them. We bought a mailing list of 500 VP sales at big companies, and we sent copies out, very expensive mailing, sent copies out with little order form in each envelope, like, hey, get these for your team. And now we're sitting back and we're waiting for the orders to roll in, and it's crickets. There's nothing. And Richard is he's starting to think like, maybe the post office threw them all in the garbage because they didn't want to deliver all of these. And I'm saying, no, that's crazy. Well, unfortunately, or fortunately, we got one order from one company, but 499 of them were no's. We didn't hear anything. And we thought, wow, this is depressing, a little deflating to get these no's, to get the rejection, right? But we proceeded to push on and to push forward, and we would market the book, and we would send copies and do what we could to get the word out, and without being in bookstores. And we were finally at a book marketing conference, and we noticed that I had overheard a guy sitting in front of us named Tom. He was in sales, and we brought copies with us wherever we went. We would hand them out like candy. And I heard that Tom was in sales. So we had one book left before we ended the conference, before we left and went home. And I told Richard, he said, well, I guess we'll just take this back. And I said, no, let's give it to this guy. So I said, hey, Tom, you might like this. You're in sales. So handed him the book. Got a call 3 days later from this guy, Tom. And he said, the first thing he says is, I read your book. And we were like, oh, great. We were all excited. And he said, are you guys open-minded for feedback? And that always, doesn't sound like a good start, right? And we said, yeah, what is it? He said, I want to tell you that you have written one of the greatest sales books in the history of sales books. And I've read them all. I have a collection of practically every book that was ever written. He said, but you have one of the worst covers in the history of publishing. And he said, I think if you could change that, if you were willing to change that, he said, I would like to order 5,000 copies. And so we said, absolutely, Tom, we're open to your feedback. We are coachable, which is another lesson that we learned, right? Got to be coachable. You got to be open to that criticism. And it kind of made sense to us, like maybe this is maybe this is the key. Maybe this is one of the things that held us back. And so we did hire a professional book cover designer, and because we bootstrapped everything back in those days, and it wasn't like today where you could publish online and go and have software on your own computer where you could make beautiful things like we have today. It's so crazy. So we hired a cover designer. We did that. Tom bought copies, and that was a impetus to change that. That was in about 2004, 2005.
So a while.
A while,
Wow.
but still we persevered because we still had to get the word out. We finally put the book on Amazon in 2007, and December 31st, 2010, it finally hit Amazon's #1 on the sales and selling list. Not overall, like we're not talking beating Stephen King and J.K. Rowling and
Sure.
those people, but we hit #1 on the sales list, and so that was our 10-year overnight success.
Wow, that is such a great story. And if you had given up at any one of those points, it would be over for you. So is that when you went with the big no on the cover, the big no thing that you have? Yeah, because I love that. It does draw you to the book, doesn't it? That was brilliant of Tom to say you had a bad cover, I guess, obviously.
It was great feedback, and we appreciate it. And of course, he, I guess, was a reader and a student of covers, and took the time to do it, which obviously we appreciate. And so now he's become all these years actually a very good friend.
Oh, that's
and
great.
Huge advocate of Go for No. So
I'm glad you didn't take that last book home with you too that day. That would have been, oh well. You didn't. You did it. You went ahead and gave it to one more person. Let one more person tell you no.
That's right.
That's right. Oh,
you just never know.
Oh, fantastic. So the Fear Factory is the other book in $1 Million Year. Do you recommend Go for No first, and then the other books? Just, do you have any?
Yeah, always Go for No. It is the foundation of everything. And in some of those books, The Fear Factory is an interesting one. It's a fable about a guy who, we do like the fable idea. This is a guy who stumbles into the Fear Factory, a place that manufactures and sells fear to the general public. And he finds himself trapped there, and he has to learn the lessons of what fear really is and where it really comes from. So that was a fun one. And the difference between the two really is that, and the interesting thing is that people, Go for No solves a very specific problem, and it's a problem that we all suffer with to some degree, and that's the fear of failure and rejection. And we're biologically wired to not want to get rejected. So of course it's a challenge, and it's a challenge in business, because business requires that we have the courage to ask for things. And it doesn't matter if you're asking for support, or you're asking for a mentor, or favors, or asking for the sale. It all comes down to having the courage to ask. The Fear Factory, the problem is a little more elusive. It's just kind of the global problem of fear. And so from a marketing standpoint, it's kind of that next step. If people still have fear, I think it's a good one to read, but we always say start with Go for No.
Okay, good to know. What I love about Go for No is when, the two, don't want to give it away, but he sees himself being successful, and then the fear kind of dissipates. And if you can't see it in the way they saw it, you have to figure out how to see it some other way.
Yes, that's right.
So much going on in our heads, right? And
and
like you said too, we're geared for failure, and we're geared to rejection, because that's our protection for all of us. And overcoming that is the great things on the other side. So that's awesome. Well, so one of the concepts in the book you talk about are the 5 failure levels. And I wondered if you could just talk about those briefly. So for people who are listening to this, and also for the people in membership, because we know we're not covering that in the time that you have with a Action membership group. If you could do that, I think that would be great, and people could take a lot of notes, and I will be taking notes as well when I hear you.
Yeah. So the 5 failure levels it sounds crazy. Like, first of all, who wants to fail? And we've created 5 levels, but this is a way to move through failure in a way to make you successful. In other words, it's to use the benefits of failure in order to get the yeses that you want, in order to reach success. So level 1 is the ability to fail. It's where we all start. 100% of us start with that ability. Level 2 is the willingness to fail. And again, as a society, we've all been taught and trained to not fail, but to not hear the word no. And we use failure and no interchangeably. So it doesn't matter if you are talking about asking for a raise, or at fundraising, or asking for somebody to have coffee with you, or asking for an appointment. That fear of getting that no is seen by your brain as a failure. And the willingness to put yourself out there and to get that no is that second level that's so important. So it's the willingness to fail. It's the willingness to hear no, understanding that when you do that, the yeses are really on the other side of it. And that's it's a real critical mind shift, because we've all been taught to just go after success and to not fail. And we see failure obviously not as a person. It's just a simple event. It's a learning experience. Put whatever label you want on it. But I will say that we use the word failure, and sometimes people freak out about that because they don't like the word. We use it so that word doesn't have power over us, and so that it doesn't become something that we can't speak. We use it so that it becomes something demystified, and it's not this horrible, embarrassing, shameful thing. So that's the second level. The third level is where it gets really interesting. And this is called the wantingness to fail. And this is really where it can be a game changer for your business. It's when you go to sleep at night and you say to yourself, I never heard the word no today. I never failed once today. I never took a chance. I never took a risk. I never stepped out of my comfort zone. I never asked for anything. And so you know that you're playing small. You're playing just not to win, you're just playing not to lose. And so the whole idea of wanting this is to say, I want to hear no. And I want to see what will happen if I make this ask. If I, instead of talking myself out of it, which we all tend to do, is I go ahead and I make that ask. So level 3, incredibly powerful.
Oof.
Level 4 is takes a little bit of a right turn. And level 4 is failing bigger and failing faster. And so what that means is going after those big no's, those really scary ones. And we all have those clients that we're interested in, but again, we make assumptions, we prejudge, we talk ourselves out of going after them. Or if you're in B2B sales and you want to go after that company, but you think we're not ready, we're too small, we could never handle it. And so you don't ask. So it's about going after the big no's, because really, if you're a no is a no is a no, no matter who it's coming from. So whether you call somebody and make a simple ask, or you call Bill Gates and you ask for $100 million, it's the same no, right?
Yes.
Ultimately. And so doing it also faster, getting into action, getting a lot of those no's. And then level 5 is kind of the ultimate. And this is failing exponentially. This is if individual failure leads to individual success, because really failure and success are opposite sides of the same coin. You can't have one without the other. They are a package deal. And so if individual failure is so powerful, then team failure must be as well. So if you can get a team of people going for no, being willing to take risks. And I think of this with innovation, and you see people like Elon Musk and you wonder, like, how can he do this? How has he managed to build these rockets that literally come back down on their own and land on a platform? Well, he's not doing it all himself. He's having hundreds and thousands of people fail along with him. And so that's that final level.
He's so proud of that failure too.
He
right?
is, yes.
And I think what you said earlier, you mentioned something about the brain and how we acknowledge the fear. The brain doesn't know a big fear from a little fear. It doesn't.
That's right.
But like you said, the $100 million Bill Gates ask versus a small ask, whatever else that is in your world, a date or something, it's the brain, it's the same. That's love that. That is so fantastic. Well, for people who haven't read your book, that should be just enough right there to get them intrigued to do a little more digging in the book. The other thing I like about the book is it doesn't take forever to read it. It's an easy book to read. I like the Audible. I'm an Audible lover, and I like the way it sounds. And you have I think it's good. And it's really, you would be failing if you didn't get the book. Let's just say that.
That's a good way to put it.
There you go. Well, this has been very helpful. I'm excited to work with the group that I have coming to my Action membership on Wednesday. We meet in Wichita, Kansas once a month on the first Wednesday. And what I love after we listen to an international speaker and presenter and author and consultant like yourself is, what can we take away from that and continue with? That's what's really exciting. So you're going to have an impact on a lot of people on Wednesday the 1st. So think about that day. Yeah, isn't that exciting?
That is so exciting. That is so exciting.
I want to thank you very much, Andrea, for this time of yours today. And I'm on my little vacation out in Colorado, and you agreed to be very flexible with that, and I appreciate it. So if people want to get a hold of you and find you, what's the best way for them to find you, reach out to you?
Well, I've been doing this a long time, so I'm well branded. So it's just at GoForNo. It's goforno.com, or on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. Go for no. You type that in, you'll find me.
You're everywhere. And you're also very responsive, and I appreciate that. So awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you to you and your husband for the work that you do for the sales professionals in the world, because I can't remember who said nothing happens without a sale, and it's so true. And the more of them we have, the better. So
agreed.
Yes. Thank you very much. And I'll look forward to seeing you in person sometime and enjoying your video on Wednesday.
Yes.
All right. See ya. Bye-bye.